Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to day 2 of our focus week. And throughout the day today, we're going to be concentrating on career and leadership. And as part of that, we're going to be talking to some of our fabulous award winners. And this morning, I'm really pleased to say that we're going to be talking to Andzelika Magierski from NHS SBS. Now, forgive me, Anders, if I've got that completely wrong, but in the pronunciation of your name. And yeah,
fine.
As I said, fantastic winner of our P2P Manager of the Year award. And so just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, first of all. And I guess, you know, like most of us and most organizations, it's been a very tricky time for everybody, but probably even more so for anybody working within the NHS and that wider network. So can you tell me a little bit about that to begin with, please? How was that for everybody?
First of all, welcome again, and thank you very much for the award and recognition. It has been a massive surprise for me, yet a great privilege. Going back to the question, how was it? I think it's how was and how it still is. It's been exciting yet challenging. From the team perspective and from the business perspective, from what I've observed, and I'm sure we'll mention that a little bit later on, everyone's passion for delivering truly amazing service for the NHS shone throughout those difficult times. But it also gave us a little bit of an opportunity to rethink our approach to where we are as a business, the BAU, the transformation that we're going through, and how we can grow and develop further as a business, as an organization, and as teams. It was difficult and challenging at times, and whilst we were supporting our clients, we as a business were also dealing with the consequences of COVID and everything else that has thrown at us. And talking from the simple things like challenges of working from home, the homeschooling, the IT challenges, all of a sudden, some simple things that we didn't think of. That, you know, there are still some team members that actually haven't got an internet at home because they didn't think they actually needed that. And the fact is that the nature of our work is really closely linked up with the national challenges that NHS England is have and is facing. And the way I see our role in all this is that obviously we need to manage those the challenges ourselves from, you know, via the lessons learned, development, and maturing the business. But our role in all this is to really remain strong. It's to remain focused on our delivery. It's to be knowledgeable and growing that maturity and knowledge base and lead the way through the difficult times. Go on. I personally think that the consequences of the pandemic, and I think what we're facing right now, they're just starting to emerge. And the changes in the impact and behavior, and, you know, the macroeconomy that we're talking about, those waves are still yet to come. So from the resilience perspective, I think we're preparing ourselves to be dealing with the unknown that we're facing.
Yes, obviously, because in some ways, you know, it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? And certainly you can't call it as something which is over, because it's completely ongoing, and then it has repercussions further down the line, doesn't it? But looking at the nomination that was put forward for yourself, and looking at some of what was happening in the wider team, you can certainly see that resilience is really shining through. And I believe I'm right in saying that you joined midway through 2021. So, I mean, that's obviously, you know, a challenging time in that complex environment you've just spoken about. So what was the team like when you joined?
So I joined last September. So we were pretty much towards the back end of repatriation, although I'm not talking about repatriation anymore. It's the onshoring. So from my perspective, it was an incredibly quick learning curve, and it still is. So from the team's perspective, there was a huge excitement in the air about the new challenges and opportunities, but there were also an apprehension and concern because it was a new thing. So obviously, from our perspective, you know, we have onshore 250 level 5 processes, and those are complex processes. So we started facing those challenges as a team, because we never stop we never stopped those transactions coming in. So whilst we were offshoring, we were still in the full swing of things and BAU. So at this point, there was a new concern. It's a new thing. What we're going to do? Are we actually ready? Are we going to deliver it at scales to quality and time scales? And it's all those things that everyone that's going through change has in their mind. And at some point, we needed to give people the opportunity to actually say it, to be transparent about those concerns, because ultimately, we have committed that we are going to take it on. We have committed to our clients, our suppliers. We have committed to our business and ourselves that we're doing that change. We're making that move. So the commitment from everyone in a team, the commitment from the business was absolutely amazing. I have never worked with such a fantastic team, with such a commitment, such a drive, such a passion for delivery and passion for the NHS. And we have accepted an awful lot of volumes that were coming at us from the offshore colleagues, as well as the new volumes that were coming at us. So, and it was as well for us a very quick way of how can we make it work? How can we establish new and more effective end-to-end ways of working to be able to be ready and keep challenging the volumes, the expectations that were coming our ways as well.
And I think that, I mean, it sounds like an enormous undertaking, really. So we're talking about bringing everything back onshore from India. So what was the background to that? What was the need to be able to do that? Was that the pandemic related, or were there other external drivers for doing that?
So I think there were several drivers. There were some internal, there were some external drivers. But for us as a business, as I said, I just joined at the very end of it. But was to actually own the end-to-end process and actually be responsible for end-to-end delivery. And it was on the back of internal and external feedback as well. Because in the past, the team in the UK were predominantly dealing with exceptions. And on the back of the changes to the wider organization, the decision was made that actually it's time to probably bring it onshore. And that decision was made to get on with the task and make that happen. And at this point, the teams were extremely excited about the opportunity of actually owning end-to-end, because dealing with exceptions is a little bit like a project in itself. It comes and goes. You cannot actually control it fully. Whilst you govern it, at this point, you're only dealing with a bit of a process where it's from the maturity of the business and actually being able to. Part of me is repositioning ourselves a little bit on the market as well, making sure that it's that identity of the business, the identity of the true shared service that we're delivering here. And it's all about people, it's all about services. And for me, it's all about that collaboration, that we as a shared service, we've got a unique position in the middle between the clients and the suppliers, and making sure that we drive that value. And I think this is thinking strategically. That the background is let's make sure that in order to deliver that strategic vision and mission, let's own it end to end. And let's make sure that we are fully accountable and responsible for every single process, every single exception, every single improvement to the process that we can make as well.
And that makes absolute sense in that case, and to do that, because it's very difficult to have ownership of something when you're only seeing the very tail end of it, isn't it? If you're only looking at exceptions, you haven't really got control of it obviously at the front end, have you, to manage that, whether those exceptions are going to land in your lap. So
absolutely, there are different ways of looking at it, and there are different delivery models. I think during the COVID, every mature business stopped and evaluated. Where are we going with it? What are the pros and cons? And I think when you deal with such a thing like a pandemic, those decisions have to be made, and sometimes some hard decisions have to be made at pace. And at this point, there is a point that you keep evaluating impact, evaluating pros and cons. But again, as a business that thinks that is very mature and puts the service and the clients and the suppliers at the forefront of everything, governing and controlling every part of the process, it does make sense. Having it offshored, is there a leeway in it? Is there a leverage in it? Absolutely, it is. But it all depends on the model, and obviously we have chosen the current one, and we own it end to end.
Yeah. Okay. And then what was that recruitment process like? What kind of skills were you looking for people coming into the business?
recruitment, I think, has been a challenge. And it's not just throughout the pandemic, but recruitment is still a challenge. And I don't think we are the only business and the only industry that is facing
No.
that challenge, unfortunately. But then again, that's one of the impact of COVID. And the first challenge for us from the recruitment perspective was to understand, for me when I joined, is to understand what are milestones and where is it that we're going, what is it that we're trying to achieve. And for us, it's making sure that whatever the legacy transactions we had on the back of the onshoring, we needed to make sure that we understand the size of the prize, we understand whether we've got the right people, the right capacity, the right skills. And from that perspective and the people perspective, for me, building highly effective and productive team, that's always at the forefront of my thinking. For me, it's always about retaining and attracting talent. As this business, we always had a huge knowledge base. We had a huge foundation and really strong foundation of being knowledgeable, dealing with exceptions, dealing with the product, and dealing with the transactions. Throughout the pandemic, we have recruited over 100 people, so that knowledge base, and as you can imagine, kind of diluted a little bit. So for us, it was a combination of a few things on making sure that we attracting talent with the relevant experience, but also the relevant attitude and aptitude. Everything that we're doing is a process related, and we need. I am of a true belief that we can teach the process, but for me, it's all about the can-do attitude and wanting to make it work, and every single person in the team fully understanding what they're responsible, what they're accountable for, and making sure they're delivering in this complex environment. Because let's be honest, we're dealing with 8 million invoices every year. It's not a little task. At the same time, it's not one size fits all, and we needed to make sure very quickly that we understand who are the right candidates for us. And we made that clear from the very beginning, that we need the right people on the bus with us to support the business and support the clients in delivering the services right first time.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic strategy, and it's one. I mean, I wholeheartedly sort of believe in that myself, because I think that the people in any organisation are the bedrock of it, aren't they? And
absolutely.
And like you're saying, it's very difficult to, obviously you can impact and influence how people feel and react to the work that they're doing, but it's easy in lots of ways to teach somebody how to do something. That's very, very hard to embed the right ethos in somebody. And I mean, how do you feel if you've got a certain group of individuals within your organization? I think that can-do attitude becomes infectious as well. When you've got a group of people, and particularly when you're led by someone such as yourself and the team who have that attitude themselves, I think that then that in a way it can be quite infectious, and people want to be a part of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so hugely privileged. And I felt like from the very beginning, the teams are absolutely amazing in the business, and it definitely truly is the people business. It has been challenging. It has been challenging for absolutely every single person in the team. It has been challenging for some of our clients as well. And that hasn't been an easy journey for us, but it is a journey. It's not, for me as a person, I'm a huge perfectionist. For me, everything has to be done right first time, 100% quality. And then I sometimes have to take a step back and understand, no, it's not being the best. It's about being better every single day, making sure that we are on the journey, because the change, the transformation is a journey. We can't do it overnight. And making sure that people understand whereabouts we are, whereabouts we're going, and what's the role in making the team, the business, and our clients successful in everything that we're doing. For me, it was extremely important to bring that vision and mission to the teams of why do we exist? Why this team exists? And the thing is that because we are a shared service, some of the teams dealing with the processes that are extremely, you can imagine, complex, but some of them are fairly easy. The process in itself is not complicated. Its exceptions to the process may be complicated, and the consequence of not delivering that process right first time will have a massive consequences. And I realized that very quickly, because as you can imagine, when I just joined in September and then we had all those big tasks on our hands, for me it was directing and leading the team, as well as myself learning about what is it we here doing to deliver, and why do we exist, and what does that right first time means for us, and what does that right first time means for our clients? What is the value that we add in here for our clients? So therefore, at the beginning, I seek to understand, and during that seek to understand phase, I realized that so simple processes, if they're not done right, they have a huge consequences. And it was extremely important for me that I share that observation with the teams, because some people, if you do the same process 600 times a day, at some point you think, well, I'm just processing data. And I'm like, no, you're much more than just processing the data. So for me, I brought to the surface the why teams exist.
Yeah.
And from the process perspective, how important and crucial this part of the process is, even being so simple. And people's like, I didn't think of that. And I'm like, and now we come to work understanding why you exist. And that definitely helped. That definitely helped in driving that passion for continuous improvement, and passion for striving to deliver even better service, and keep continuing to be on that journey, and keep continue to strive to deliver that excellence for our clients and the business and our colleagues, because ultimately we are in it together, and the process is so interlinked that if one team is not performing, another teams are feeling the consequence of that.
Yeah.
So again, it's just understanding, if I don't do my job right today, who else will have to pick it up?
And I think that absolutely makes sense, and is one of the key aspects that we talk about here at PPN when we talk about the benefits of collaboration and what happens when you don't, because it's so easy, like you say, to just think of your element of the working process as a finite thing, and of course, you can't spend your entire time thinking about what everybody else is doing, but it's really very important, I always feel, to understand how it fits in with everything else. And I think it has a huge impact on productivity as well. If people feel like they can own something and they understand how it fits in with the overall strategy, I think people feel more empowered as well, and more excited about the role that they're doing. But
definitely.
I mean, you joined not that long ago, and obviously all the things that you're talking about, sound extraordinarily complex, and it must have been a huge challenge for you. How did you cope with that coming into the business?
I like the challenge.
Good.
Every single role I had in the past, it was a challenge. So when I finished in my previous workplace, this was the only role I applied for, because when I read the job spec, I'm like, I think during the pandemic being in the previous role, I was exposed to NHS and how we can support that. I thought this is really meaningful. And in the past, I have been involved in the private sectors, big corporations, but private sectors. And at some point, I sat down and I thought I could actually challenge myself and see if I can cope in the public sector. And I remember having that conversation with myself. It's like, what is it going to be like? And I'm like, I'm just going to try it. And after I've interviewed, I thought my heart is with this job, and this is how it all started. And for me, I'm extremely inquisitive person. I'm a person that I have been on a leadership journey myself over the last probably 12 to 15 years, from the data manager to the position I'm in right now. And for me, it's really understanding that people are the assets of every business, and everything else can be a process. But as long as we understand why we exist, as long as we understand the data and the mind behind it, as long as we measure and manage, and as long as we add value to the client, I'm a huge fan of a lean management and lean strategy. For me, it really is bringing that why into the business, and making sure that how can I make a difference? And for me, when I'm being asked the question, what inspires you? What inspires me is that every single day when I open the laptop, I'm thinking, what can I do differently today to make that little change, that little difference that will inspire others to think differently? And maybe, if every single person comes into work today thinking, what can I do differently, just to make that very little change, at this point, all of a sudden, so many days, so many months in, we'll have completely different culture, we'll have completely different results. And yes, it's complex, yes, it's difficult, yes, it's challenging, But if it would be too easy, then at this point you not challenge yourself. And I'm the person that I like a big challenge, and I'm still learning about the business. You know, when you're working for clients like the NHS, you never stop learning. And I'm being told that by the people that work with NHS for 30, 35 years, that there is always something else. And it's just that excitement of how can I cope with it? How can I challenge myself? How can I bring my teams together to understand how can we influence the change? That's the most important part of it for me.
Well, it sounds like you're in the perfect role for you.
Well, I'm sure it's more to come.
That's what I mean for somebody who is so inquisitive and wanting to find out so much more. And I think from some of the things that you're saying just then, it's about being interested in continuous learning, isn't it? I think if you're someone with an inquisitive nature, then and wanting to help as well. So and those combinations of wanting to understand why, but also bringing that team with you on that sort of whole why process. And I think it can be fulfilling. And you said, talking about exciting, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? You know, if once you and the rest of your team understand why, no one's going to be sitting there thinking, gosh, this is boring. You know, I bet there's no one thinking, what, this is boring, because they understand why, and it's a challenge, isn't it? And as humans, when we're challenged, it's, you know, it's exciting and it's interesting.
As humans, we don't like change, and I think, you know, that's I'm excited by change. And I understand that. I also understand that not everyone in my team, not everyone amongst our clients will be excited by change. And again, that in itself for me is like, how can I tackle it effectively to help people through that change curve, to see the potential, to see the strengths, and see the value in everything they try and they do deliver.
And what about, so we've talked about people and the importance to engaging the team and the people within it in any kind of success that you want to achieve, but what's the role of technology that do you feel? I mean, have you leveraged any further automation?
It's a good question. Technology is around us, and technology is the future, and automation in my mind is tricky. It's mainly because what we do and what we're talking here is a shared service. So for me, every automation opportunity needs to deliver benefits from the end-to-end perspective, whether it's the internal or external users. And the local automation, we have been thinking, and some of it we have implemented, because I think throughout last year and beginning of this year, we have implemented just over 20 different RPAs. The robots that help us in reducing the manual and mundane work, making sure that the people can actually do the thinking, and robots will do the boring non-value add technically work. But for me, automation, if it's not done right, will eventually reintroduce those waste and exceptions that we're trying to get rid out of the process. So we need to be truly aware of that. And I'm extremely lucky to have teams with a huge knowledge and experience, whether it's the operational team, the transactional teams, or IT and RPA guys, that we were lucky to very quickly identify those quick wins and introducing the more effective ways of delivering to quality and timescales by reducing that manual and waste-related effort. This probably isn't a very long-term solution. It is the solution for now. It does obviously require a huge focus and controls, but right now it provides us a sufficient space for the teams to be able to step away from those non-value process activities and be able to concentrate on the bigger picture of what is the value that we're driving here, and where is the value that we want to concentrate on to provide more output and more value for our clients. And one of those were a simple example that we were able to increase auto verification from 7% to right now 14%. And again, it's a slow process, but again, we're doing it month on month. We're increasing the auto verification, and the more invoices go through the process auto verified, the less of the manual impact or manual effort is required. Therefore, we can utilize the knowledge and experience again to work on that continuous improvement rather than actually doing those mundane tasks.
Yeah, and absolutely, maybe it's about having those smaller objectives to reach within the team, and like you say, improving on that, and as long as you have a journey looking forward into the future, and you can tie that in with the smaller objectives on the way, then you know that you're heading in the right direction. And so how you've talked about some of the quick wins that you were able to achieve via RPA, but how have some of the other KPIs, perhaps that you're measuring different KPIs, but how is that the whole process, from repatriating from India and going through this whole process, what's the result like so far? I know it's an ongoing process and there are still things no doubt to be achieved, but what's the main benefit and results that you've seen on the back of that so far?
So far, from my perspective, I think the big results are yet to come. We have in the quick wins, but the biggest wins right now for us is the reduction in exceptions and improvement in end-to-end process. And by improvement, that means it's probably less handoffs, it's less gaps, it's less duplication. So that makes the process end-to-end a little bit more seamless, more effective, more productive, as well as it gives us an ability, and this is where we drive in with all the local MIs and understanding how well the process actually delivers the output, what's the performance of the process, and having it all in one place, having it all under one umbrella, it definitely gives us an ability to start asking a different question. Is the process that we currently have in place, is it the right process? Have we automated, whether it's in the last few months or in the last few years, the right parts of the process? Are we still managed to automate waste, and therefore the process is not effective, not productive? And giving us the ability to step away and understand the percentage of the process that gives us the desired output that we're after, and everything else, what we're going to do about it. From the KPI perspective, we managed to re-establish different KPIs from the team's perspective that then support the contractual KPIs, but that's just normal part of the operation, smart objectives, and making sure that from the responsible and accountable perspective, the RACI matrix, we have the right people in the right positions with the right controls and governance and audits in place to make sure that we deliver that transaction and service to the clients right first time, to quality and time scales. But when it comes to KPIs, it's an ongoing, from the continuous improvement perspective, making sure that we get bigger, we get better, we get more efficient, more productive. And for me, meaning more productive is an automation in line with the human knowledge and experience that we've got in this business, as well as collaboration with clients and suppliers. We need to understand, and I definitely have that at the forefront of my thinking. We are changing, we are going through the transformation, we are going through change, and so will be the NHS, so will be the ICBs, so will be our suppliers. The impact after COVID that we mentioned at the very beginning definitely drives a different behavior, and we as a business really need to be at the very beginning of that change curve, and we need to realize that there are changes out there that may potentially affect us, they may potentially benefit us, and I want to be at the very beginning of that thinking of how can I predict, even from the pestle analysis perspective, what may be coming our way, what are different in expectations, what are different in behavior from the clients and suppliers, and how can we tackle it before we will have to react to it. So for me, it's all about understanding, listening, collaborating, and be proactive in our approach.
And I suppose what you're able to have now is that flexibility to be able to do that. If you are in control of that whole end-to-end piece, as you say, that gives you the control and the flexibility. And I liked what you're saying about looking at the processes and maybe wanting to change them, or seeing what the KPIs that you may have had before and what's come out of them. Because I always think a part of any transformation process is looking at where you are now and not being afraid to change things if they're not working for the team, rather than just doubling down and carrying on with the processes as they stand. So how did you go about bringing the team with you on this program as it's been so far? Did you have to involve them in much change management, or what kind of process did you go through in order to help them to understand why they were doing it?
It's a tricky question, because like we said, I was new to the business. So as a part of this journey of delivering and restabilizing team after repatriation, I was introducing myself. I was injecting that different level of energy, different vision, and different goals that I came with the business with. And at some point, people look at me thinking, Andrew's just from a completely different planet, to be perfectly honest. Because me coming with those different vision and mission, and when I remember very beginning, probably after the first 3 months, I said to the teams, like, I want us to deliver a seamless service. And there's like, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, imagine when you get up first thing in the morning, when you flick a switch, you don't actually have to schedule the time with your energy supplier thinking, I have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, therefore they need to provide me the gas or electricity. I said the same with anything else. When you choose to have a bath at the time that usually it's not scheduled for, you don't have to actually ring your water company thinking, I better schedule that, otherwise not yet. Well, with if the weather continues like that, we just never know. But in principle, there are things that are given and we take them for granted. And I'm like, and for me, if a supplier knows that they're dealing with us, they shouldn't have to give us a call. They shouldn't have to think, will I get actually my invoice paid on time? That should be a given. And I'm like, and I want us to deliver that service.
Yeah.
I want our clients to think we are with the SBS, we are safe. And I'm like, and for me, this is where I'm going. And people were thinking, and people were like, is this actually possible? And I'm like, I can't make it happen. I said, but we collectively can make it happen.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, again, back to basic. Why do we exist as a business? Why do we exist as a team? What's expected of us as a team? For me, the lean approach, absolutely always. And the Kotter's 8 steps to transformation, that's extremely important for me, because again, I was able to have some framework in place to talk people through whereabouts we are on that change curve, on the journey to transform, whether it's the transformation as a business of where we are to where we're going, or after stabilize, after repatriation. So we are on the journey, and we need to understand that every single step happens for a reason. And at this point, for me, it was probably building the credibility as well, because I came from a completely different background. I came from a completely different industry. So for me, it was making sure that I build those relationships with absolutely everyone in the business, with my teams. And I said that from the very beginning to my teams, we are working together. You're not working for me. If anything, I'm working for you. I'm an enabler. And I want to make sure that you all understand that I'm only as good as the results that you and your team's delivering. Therefore, we are in it together.
Yeah.
And I do keep repeat that to my teams. And I'm a huge believer that I prepare the child for the path, not the path for the child. And this is really extremely important for me to develop that another level of management, another level of leaders in my teams, that people feel empowered to make decisions. As long as you make decisions with enough data you've got in front of you that warrants that decision, go for it. I empower people to do that. I'm like, if things go wrong, we'll reflect, we'll evaluate, we'll do lessons learned, and we move on. But you guys are the experts. You know what needs to do and what needs doing. So let's get on with it and let's make it happen.
That sounds fantastic, because it feels like you're giving confidence, not only confidence to the people within the team, but confidence to the wider business as well, that you know what you're doing, you're in control of the process, and also confidence to the suppliers as well, like you're talking about, knowing that they're going to be paid on time. And I think that's a really key thing as well, for people feeling like they're doing their job well, understanding their job, actually providing that kind of confidence, which it sounds like you're absolutely doing. So again, one of the reasons why you're P2P Manager of the Year and the winner of that. So obviously, you've been through a broad change within the business and within the team. So is there anything, looking back on it, that you would do differently?
On reflection, when I joined the business, this was the time that we were still in the lockdown. And at this point, we recruited just over 100 people to the team. So we were absolutely all over the place, from the not having the visibility from whether I'm in Leeds, I'm in Nottingham. When I actually said to people I'm in Nottingham, they were actually surprised, because there's always that, oh, we're based in Tingley or we're based in Bristol. So it's almost that what I was missing being working from home is that understanding that map of whereabouts my teams are. I said how the systems and the processes are split in between offices. And I'm thinking on reflection that it would be so much easier. And I think some of the results that we are now delivering or delivered just before the year end would have been more possible to deliver sooner if we come back into the office a little bit sooner. I think we were extremely cautious there, and it's absolutely right to be cautious and not bringing the opening offices too soon. I was just thinking from that building the team perspective, because ultimately we've got an amazing team, and that would definitely help in sharing the knowledge, sharing the experience, and actually creating that common goal for everyone. It's not as easy building that relationship online. It's not as easy to have that feel for people. Am I the right fit for this team? Because I don't see the body language. Whilst we all have cameras on, whilst we all keep smiling, it's different when you're in person. It's different when you eventually can shake hands or actually smile and have coffee and just have that chat. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
And this is one thing that on reflection I would have done differently. I'd definitely campaign to bring the teams into the office a little bit sooner, so we can start building that journey, that teamwork, because it's just not about knowledge and it's not about driving the service. It's about making sure that the people in the business understand who are the next person, who is their colleague. They can just give them a call and they can tap them on the shoulder, like, can you help us here? Because that's extremely important, that knowledge sharing, that when you're online, whilst it's probably as easy as tapping someone on the shoulder, when you're new to the team and you haven't got that confidence and you haven't got that relationship, sometimes not everyone is as forthcoming. And I think on reflection, this is what I would have done slightly different.
And it's interesting what you say about the key word there, share. And I think that is so important, isn't it? Because it's one of the things that I was really pleased about when we had our P2P transformation summit back in person in June. We'd held the previous 2 years, obviously because of lockdown, virtually, which was, you know, they're great, and you're able to share to some extent, but there's so much more to share when you speak to somebody face to face, and those connections that you make, and there's just those brief asides that you have that you might not want to pick up the phone or go on to Teams or Zoom and have those conversations, but you will when you see someone face to face. So I'm absolutely with you there. I think there's still a place for some things to be done virtually, but as far as building a team goes, I can completely understand that you need to be together and to have that broader knowledge sharing experience.
And we know we did see that, and I saw that in the previous workplace, and I see in this workplace the teams that work together pre-pandemic as a team in the office, and they've got that relationship. They were able to adopt and adapt the virtual working from home easier, because they already had those connections between them. And the brand new team, it took much longer to build that connection between the team and connection between the team and individuals and the business as well. So it's definitely something to learn from for the future.
Well, we're all humans ultimately, aren't we?
Absolutely.
And humans are built on relationships and communication, and the best way to do that is in person. So we've talked about all the things that you have been doing, and the processes that you've changed, and the way that that's developing. So what are your plans for the future? What's next for you, both personally and also for the team?
Future is exciting. For us, for the teams, it's keep improving. For me, keep empowering the teams, strengthen the collaboration with clients, suppliers, and strengthen the collaboration internally between the teams. For me, it's driving value in absolutely everything that we do. It's extremely important for me that we understand the power of the end output, the end product. The clients will see that for us, it's sometimes a process, but for the end user, it's much more than a process. Then it's just a paid invoice. And I feel like as a business, we are in an incredibly privileged position to be working for the NHS. I have been reflecting on a few things recently, and for me, the way I see us, the way we are as a shared service, the one thing that just springs to mind is Steve Jobs saying that we're here to put a dent in the universe, and that's what I keep thinking about. That there are endless possibilities for us. There are endless possibilities for our clients and for our teams in the business. And for me, it's like, let's just make that dent in the universe. That's the ultimate goal.
Well, that sounds like as good a place as any to end the conversation, Anders. With a quote from Steve Jobs, you can't get better than that, and I completely agree. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and congratulations once again for being our P2P Manager of the Year.
Thank you, and massive congratulations to the teams and the business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and thanks to everybody for joining us for this conversation, and I hope you'll join the rest of our discussions and activities today and during the course of the rest of the week as well. But for now, take care. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.